やあ君、ねえあなた、おいお前。These are all hey you in Japanese. Then how do we know when to use which you? Let's find out. What's up, Japan enthusiasts? 皆さんこんにちは。I'm Max. Welcome back to my channel where we dive into the world of Nihongo and Japanese culture. So today's topic is how to say you in Japanese. So knowing how to say you in specific situations is really important when you speak Japanese. It is as important as knowing how to say I in Japanese. And I have a video about how to say I in Japanese, so please check it out if you are not sure how to say I in Japanese. But today's topic is you. Let's get into it. So when you first started learning Japanese, or if you are starting to learn Japanese right now, then you probably know that you in Japanese is often translated as anata. So there are different ways to say you in Japanese based on the situations that you're in or the relationship that you have with that person you're talking to. It's not just anata. So if you want to sound natural in Japanese when you talk to somebody, you need to know other ways to say anata, and I will show you in this video. Let's first get into the formal ways to say you in Japanese. So first thing first, anata. Anata. So anata is probably the most typical way to say you in Japanese, like you probably have already learned. But anata is used in this kind of situation. はじめまして。あなたのお名前は何ですか？私の名前はマックスです。マックスさん、あなたの趣味は何ですか？私の趣味はカレーを食べることです。Alright, so like in that conversation, meeting somebody new, you don't know their name and you don't know who they are, so you ask, who are you? What's your name? So in that kind of situation, you should probably use anata. Even in business settings and formal settings, you can use anata and you won't go wrong. But in some situations, anata sounds kind of weird, so let's look at all the other ones. So the second one on the list, kiden. Wow, you probably never heard of it, kiden. Kiden is super formal and I've almost never used it myself, but it's good to know how to use it. Kiden is usually used in writing. When you write letters, when you write emails, if you want to use kiden in your emails or letters, then you probably need to know how to use keigo, formal speech, properly. Otherwise, just stick with anata in formal situations. Alright, so we looked at formal ways to say you, and basically you just stick with anata, I said. Then how do we say you in casual settings? So there are mainly two ways to say you in casual settings in Japanese. The first one is kimi. 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 So kimi is pretty casual. You have to be careful when you can use it. For example, 君はどこから来たんだ？僕は大阪から来ました。君大阪出身だったのか？これからよろしくね。よろしくお願いします。So like in that situation, you use kimi if you are, for example, older or like a boss. So what it means is that kimi sounds sometimes rude or sometimes bossy. So if you're not sure about how to say kimi, when to say kimi, then you should stick with the other ones that I'm gonna show you later in this video. But for example, among friends, so if you're talking to your friend and if you use kimi, you might sound a little bit cold. So you would still stay away from using kimi in that situation. And the second way to say you in casual settings in Japanese is omae. 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 Omae is actually way ruder than kimi. You should probably avoid using it, but at the same time, if you are friends and you're talking to your friend and you're pretty close to them, then you can use omae. But it sounds kind of manly, so if you're a man and you're talking to your friend, then you can use omae. But if you're not a man, if you're a woman, you using omae might sound kind of weird or a little bit vulgar, so please be careful of when and how you use お前. So for example, おい、お前今日何してるん? ああ、今日何もしてないで。ただただ家でゲームしてるだけ。お前は? いや、俺もゲームしてるだけやねん。あ、じゃあちょっとどっか遊びに行く? ああ、ええやんええやん。どこ行くかお前が決めてや。Just like that. So between friends, right? It's the friends relationship. So if you're close to them, totally fine. As long as they don't feel violated or they don't feel offended, alright? So be careful. Alright, so this part is actually gonna be the main part. So thank you for sticking with me and let's find out how we actually naturally say you in Japanese. Japanese people don't use those ones that I already showed you so often. We usually use their names and honorifics after their name. The first honorific that we use probably the most often is san. 誰々さん. If you are close enough to them, then you might call them by their first names with san. So if you were to talk to me, you might say Max-san, right? Max-san. For example, the name of the person you're talking to is Sayaka. Then you will call her Sayaka-san. And san, you can use it for women and men, both, any gender. Probably this is the most common way to address someone in Japanese. 誰々さん. And the next one is sama. 誰々様. 誰々様. So sama is basically the politer version of san. You don't probably use it in casual settings at all. You use sama when you're in formal settings and business settings. Just be reminded that san, you can use it in a formal setting and also casual settings, but you don't know so much about them or you have some kind of distance between you and them. But sama is only used in a formal setting. Next one is kun. 誰々君. 誰々君. Kun is pretty casual and the kanji of kun is actually the kanji of kimi. 誰々君 is basically used in kind of the same way as kimi. Instead of just saying kimi, you use their name and kun. It sounds more personal, it sounds warmer. So when you are talking to your friends, you can even use kun, 誰々君. But here's what you have to be careful. Kun, use it only for men. So if you're talking to a man, then yes, 誰々君 is fine. But if you're talking to a woman, then kun is not the right one. So the right way to address a woman in a casual way is 誰々ちゃん. ちゃん. 誰々ちゃん. So if your friend is Karen, then you will call her Karen-chan. 誰々ちゃん has a different connotation than 誰々君. It's way less intimidating than 誰々君. You can use it almost the same way as 誰々君, but this is the woman version. So I will give you an example of using 君 and ちゃん. おー、カレンちゃん、久しぶり。
マックス君、久しぶりだね。今何してたの？
ああ、今から帰るとこだったんだよ。カレンちゃんは何してたの？
私も帰るとこだったんだ。マックス君って家どこだったっけ？
俺、世田谷に住んでるんだ。カレンちゃんもそういえば世田谷だったよね。一緒に帰ろうよ。So just like that, they're close to each other, they're friends for probably a while. When you use any of these honorifics, you can still use their last names. For example, their last name is Suzuki, then Suzuki-san, Suzuki-sama, Suzuki-kun, Suzuki-chan. That's how it is, depending on the situation. By the way, in Japan, there's something really weird. In elementary school, 小学校, we tend to call each other by our first names with kun and chan. But when we get into the middle school and high school, we start using last names with kun and chan or san. I don't know why, but I think it's about the education of being formal or education for formality. So speaking of that, other honorifics, we use their titles. So, for example, in school, if you're talking to a teacher, then you will call them 先生, 先生. And if their name is Suzuki, then you will say 鈴木先生, 鈴木先生. And there are so many more titles. For example, in business settings, what you usually hear are 社長, 部長, 課長, 係長. Those are all titles in your company. So if you're talking to your boss and he's a manager, then you might say 課長.課長. And if you're talking to a president of a company, then you will say 社長. What I think is better is use their name with their title. So you will say 鈴木社長, 鈴木課長, 鈴木部長. And in a lot of companies in Japan, you are kind of obligated to call them by their titles. Instead of saying Suzuki-san, you need to call them like Suzuki 課長, Suzuki 部長, Suzuki 係長. Just be careful when you're in the business setting. But if you're talking to your client who is not in your company, then you can probably stick with 誰々さん or more formal way, 誰々様. Alright, so that's it for today's video. Did you know all the ways to say you in Japanese? And do you understand how to use them now? Well, if you have a question, please leave a comment. And if you like the video, please hit the like. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, Max Japanese, please subscribe and see you in the next one. Bye.